This conference will now be recorded.
So welcome everybody. Today is the 6th of February. We're already into our second month, and this is the high risk recurrent advanced group. We've got a fairly big crew, which I was kind of expecting, 47 people right now, including our liaison, our principal liaison and senior person from Myriad Genetics, Sonny Yarish, who's just listening in. And the likelihood is Sonny will have some discussion about genetics, whether it be somatic or germline, because we rarely get through one of these groups without focusing in on that. Although we don't directly set aside time for that, it always gets talked about. We have 4 new gents. So we're going to do our best to get through them with about 10 to 15 minutes each. So I may need to cut off some conversations. Let me first of all find out who needs time tonight so we know how much time we have for the new men. So here we go. Jim Marshall. You can stick. You can.
Negative.
Right. So when I call your name, make sure that you are not muted. Jeff Wood.
Thank you. I'm good, Rick.
Great. Mark V.
No, thanks, Rick. I'm doing fine.
Good. Aaron in EC.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Rick? Yeah, I'd like to have a couple minutes tonight.
Okay. Ben, anything for you?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Mike Yarish. Mike Y.
No, nothing tonight.
Good. Tony Fig.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Peter Goodell, I know we haven't seen you for a while. Anything on your mind?
Yeah, just a little. If you could allot me like 5 minutes for an update.
Okay, you got it. Norm, anything for you?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Good. The golden tanned Jim B on the west coast of Florida. Anything for you?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay, you're making Len look pallid there. I don't know. Maybe the sun's a little stronger further down the coast. I don't know. Joe M, anything for you?
Yes, I'd like a few minutes.
Okay. Jerry P, anything for you?
Jerry or Jerry?
Come on.
Jerry Pelfrey, anything for you?
My mic is my mic on?
You're on now.
No.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Bob.
Okay, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Jimmy G.
No, sir.
Thank you. Peter Monaco. Peter M.
No, Rick, thank you.
Russ H.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Paul Frieda.
I'm fine. No time for me tonight. Thanks.
Good. Captain Frank, anything for you?
Just a quick update on Myovant.
Okay. George Rovder.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks to the organizers and nothing else.
Okay. Dr. Jack.
Yes, just a very brief update.
Okay. Herb is new. Eric is new. Len, anything for you?
No, thanks, Rick.
Okay. Cliff, anything on your mind?
Yes, I'd like a few minutes if you don't mind.
Okay. Harry S. in Chicago.
Nothing today.
Good. Michael in Maui.
I'm all good. Thank you, Rick. Aloha.
Aloha. Sylvester.
Thank you. No, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Thomas J. in Colorado.
I'm okay, Rick. Thanks.
Okay. Gary P.
Hi, Rick. No thanks.
Good. Rob Glover. Anything for you in Colorado?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Okay. We're on the Colorado kick. Don Kramer. Are you still with us, Don Kramer? Okay. Well, he was, but I don't know where he is now. Al, Neil Sundstrom.
Yes, I have a question for the group. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Latimer in Fort Lauderdale. You're muted. Unmute.
Sorry. I thought I unmuted it and I muted instead. Sorry. Hi, Rick. I'll have something next week. I had a follow-up PSMA PET today and I have infusion 5 tomorrow. So I'll have more to report next time.
Okay. Plenty to report. How quiet is it on the Eastern Front?
Hair pin drop.
Agreed.
Okay. Alan Babcock.
No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Peter said no. Richard Oakton in Oakton. Richard.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, great. Now we have I see some more callers here. Well, I think we're gonna have to wait until the end for any more callers because we got past the 10 after. Anyone else that I missed?
Herb's here.
Herb's here. Should we
Herb?
ask?
Indeed, I am.
Should we ask him if he needs time since he came in late? What's the consensus?
No, that's okay. I'm okay.
Okay. See, even as a moderator, you don't get a preference. All right. Now we're gonna jump right in since we're already 20 minutes in, and I'm gonna start with Don Eisner. And Don, we're going to ask you a few quick questions so we get a sense of who and what you are, and then we'll spend a few minutes on your situation. So, Don, how old are you? Don, can you hear us? You might be having some trouble. So, Don, I'll come right back to you. We'll try you. We will come back to you, we promise. But let me start with somebody who I can hear for sure. Who's the next gent on my list is Herb C. This is not Herb Geller. This is another Herb. Herb, how old are you?
Are you, is that Herb Courtney?
That's Herb Courtney.
Okay. Yeah, I'm 85.
Okay. And where do you live, Herb?
In Oakview, California, which is near Ventura, Santa Barbara area.
Yep. And what year were you first diagnosed?
11 years ago. So 11 from 23.
So 2012. That's my math. And when you were diagnosed, what was your Gleason score?
4+3.
4+3, and your PSA?
The PSA was about 6 or 7, and for many, many years it baselined at around 1.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that. And when you first were diagnosed back in 2012, where did you get treatment?
I got treatment at USC Medical Center, had a robotic assisted radical prostatectomy.
Okay. And did they do any scans on you? Because you had a 4 in your number. Did they do any scans on you before you started?
No, back then, you know, there were no PSMA PET scans available back then. And so after the prostatectomy, about 3 months later, I had a detectable PSA. And
Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on, we'll
okay,
come to that. But
okay,
before they didn't do an MRI or a CT scan before?
no,
Okay.
just a biopsy.
Yeah, well, they were supposed to have done a if you have a 4 in your number, they should have done an MRI or a bone scan. I was diagnosed in 2007 and I got all of that. Certainly we didn't get PSMA scans, but it's interesting they didn't do that. So tell us what happened after that initial treatment.
Well, like I said, about 3 months after I had a detectable PSA, and my doctor was a urologist, not an oncologist, and put me on hormone medication, bicalutamide. That lasted about 7 or 8 years. Kept the PSA, you know, down in the 0.1, 0.2 range. But then it started to creep up again, so we went to enzalutamide, Xtandi, which had some not too pleasant side effects. Anyway, trying to keep this short, I switched to an oncologist. By that time, the PSMA PET scans were available at 2 places on the West Coast, UCLA and USF. And so we took me off the Xtandi, let the PSA start to go up. But long story short, I've had 4 PSMA PET scans at PSAs ranging from 0.2 to 7, all negative. I've also had a prostate-specific MRI, negative, and the other PET scan that's not PSMA, and it's negative.
Oh, it's okay. We've got a good friend to introduce you to on this call, and we'll connect you afterwards. We have someone else in the same situation as you. So what is your current PSA?
Right now, I insisted on going back on the hormone therapy because it was getting up to about 7. And so it was just about 2 weeks ago, it was back down to 2. And I got another shot. The hormone is the injection. I can't think of the name right now, but anyway, so.
Are you getting Lupron or are you getting
Lupron? Yeah, Lupron, 30-day. And it went back to, like I say, down to 2, and I got another shot, so it's probably going to go down lower.
Right. And who's your medical oncologist?
I have an oncologist with UCLA. They have an office in Ventura with a couple of oncologists.
Yeah, but I happen to know that neither of those oncologists are GU medical oncologists. They are medical oncologists, but they're not GU medical oncologists, and we recently have not had great experience with them. So I don't know if you're aware of that in that Ventura office. So they're not they may be a medical oncologist, they're not a GU med onc.
Say that again, a G what?
A genitourinary medical oncologist. Let me tell everybody about the chat window. So the chat window is the little box at the top. And if you click on that box, it'll open up and there'll be people talking to each other in there, and we welcome you to use the chat window. But what we say is, and we really stand by this in 99% of the cases, there's a couple of exceptions, that if you have recurrent disease, you need a medical oncologist who specializes in prostate cancer and or genitourinary diseases. The general oncologists aren't up to scratch most of the time. And so you should be really seeing that there's one good guy at UCLA that we generally refer to. I realize it's a bit of a schlep for you from Ventura. I know the area pretty well, but by and large, that's who you should be seeing. And he may be willing to work with the guy, is it the lady you're saying in Ventura?
Yeah, the lady. Yeah. Dr.
Yeah,
Benjamin.
what's her name? Yeah,
Benjamin.
Yeah, our experience, I can only talk from our experience, but in dealing with somebody else who she's been seeing, she doesn't understand prostate cancer. Just telling you.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
And what was the guy's name down at UCLA in Brentwood?
Can anybody help me? I can see his face in my mind with a beard, but I can't remember. If anybody can look it up, otherwise I've got to. I've got him bookmarked, but I just can't remember his name. I tell you what, Ben, one of the other mods, why don't you just take over quickly with Herb, and I'll look up the name, please. Hello?
How about Albert Chang?
No, Albert Chang is a radiation oncologist.
Oh, is he? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we need a medical oncologist. Can
I'll find it.
Herb or Len, one of you guys, just if you can take over, and so I can look up the name for Herb, please.
Yeah, sure.
We can take over. Go ahead.
So Herb, this is Len over here.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I got this right. You said your PSA went up to 7 when you were on a drug holiday, and your PSMA scan was still negative?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I had 4 PSMA scans as it went from about 0.2 up to 7.
Okay, and all negative.
And all 4 were negative.
Did they, once those scans were negative, did they try a different scan?
Yeah, we tried the what's the other scan that preceded PSMA, but it's not very sensitive at low values, huh?
Axiom.
FDG?
Oh, the
FDG?
Axiom.
Yeah, Axiom. Yeah.
Axiom.
Axiom. Yeah. Yeah, we did one of those. It was negative, and did a prostate-specific MRI, and it was negative.
Just prostate. But why didn't they do a full body MRI or a CT of chest, abdomen, pelvis, something a little more expansive?
Well, they did, with some of the PSMAs, they also did a CT.
Okay, everything negative.
Everything negative.
Huh. Why don't we bring in Dr. Jack to have a quick word of commiseration with Herb. Dr. Jack, you want to say something to your newfound best friend?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, are you sure you were as high as 7? I mean,
oh yeah,
0.7, not 0.7.
No. I follow it pretty closely. It was 7. The last scan was probably just a little under 7, but right there.
So what we have in common is after years didn't light up. I've had 2 years in a row. I had my first PSMA scan at Sloan Kettering April 1st, 2021, and that was negative. But my PSA at the time was only like 0.3, and then I had a scan Well, I had an FDG scan and all kinds of other scans following that, and they didn't light up at all. This year I've had a PSMA scan, and my PSA at that time was 0.52, and that PSMA scan did not light up anywhere in my body either. I had an aximum scan done with the PSA of somewhere in the same neighborhood, maybe 0.6 or so, and it showed one lymph node that I will describe later in the lung of all places, and nowhere else in my body. A lymph node isolated to the subcarinal area, right at where the trachea bifurcates. So it's very bizarre. Nowhere else in my body has it lit up. It's been a quandary for years, and they wanted me to do IMRT and hormones, and I chose not to. I'm being followed just and observed and getting PSMA and aximum scans and whatever to try and locate it. Now I'll get this biopsy and find out whether or not it's something that is cancerous, metastatic cancers, or somewhere in my body microscopically yet to be discovered, which it sounds like has happened to you.
Yeah.
So Herb, Courtney, first of all, I put in the chat window the name of this doc. It's Matthew Rettig, Rettig.
Right. I saw it and wrote it down.
Right. Now, and I put a link there. If you click on that link, it'll open up for you for later, and you can look at him later. Just click on the link. It'll open up in your browser, and you can look afterwards. If any of you have been to PCRI, he often speaks at PCRI. He's very animated. He's a good guy. I would strongly suggest that you start working with him. He may be willing to work with Benjamin, who's in one of these ancillary UCLA centers, but he's the quality of doc that you need. Another alternative might be Dr. Schultz in the area, because he's certainly on top of this. But these are the docs I think we would endorse in that area. It sounds to me like you're one of these unfortunate fellows that doesn't make PSMA. And there's about 20% of those. At the same time, you'd think that something would show up on the Axumin scan. I just read before this started about some new test at Cedars-Sinai in West LA. Well, it's not really West LA, but in Cedars-Sinai.
Yeah, I know it well.
Yeah, they've got a new test there where they are able to determine if you have prostate cancer in your blood and distinguish it between being local and metastatic. And you might be the perfect guy for that. I had asked our Brains Trust to check it out, but if are you registered with us, Herb? Are you receiving our reminders?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so I'll look you up and I'll send you the link, and then you may want to reach out to these folks at Cedars-Sinai and see if this test that they're publicizing is ready for prime time.
Yeah, I actually go to Cedars-Sinai because my wife has Parkinson's, and we go down there for her Parkinson's.
Oh, Norm, we found another one, Mr. Pollock.
Yeah.
We're working to. Go ahead, Norm.
Oh, my wife just had her DBS a couple months ago and is doing great.
Oh, fantastic! Because that's we're on track for a DBS.
Yeah, don't wait, because if stuff happens, you can't get it, and then you're done.
Right. I'll connect. We're not going to talk about DBSs now, but I will connect you guys afterwards, I promise.
Perfect.
And we are trying to get a Parkinson's group started, but we're not there yet, but we're getting. So we'll watch this space is what we say. Okay?
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask us?
No, not really. I mean, the Benjamin did consult with two other oncologists at UCLA, but I know it wasn't Rettig. And bottom line is they're all just stumped.
Well, I would suggest, and the problem is she might have consulted with others, but were they GU medical oncologists or were they just general medical oncologists?
That I couldn't tell you.
Well, that's what you got to ask her. And my advice to you from a navigation standpoint would be to get yourself onto Dr. Reddick's books sooner rather than later. Okay.
Will do.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to say to Norm? To Herb? Okay. All right. I'll look you up afterwards. Make sure. And for good order's sake, just send me your email just to make sure, just in case there's anything wrong, because I definitely want to get you this information on the test afterwards, Herb.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Don Eisner. Can we hear you now? Your microphone's showing, but we can't hear you. We could hear you before, Mr. Eisner. Microphone's off. Microphone's on. All right. You may want to go out and come back in again, and I'll try you again. I'm putting your sheet aside one more time. And the next person up is Eric. Eric, are you with us?
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, you want to give us a last name or an initial at least?
Yeah,
so we can
last name's Thorpe, Thorpe.
As in Jeremy, right? You can tell I was.
Yes.
You can tell I come from the old country. And how old are you?
I used to get Jim Thorpe quite a bit, but that's an American thing.
Yeah.
I'm 67 years old. I was diagnosed at 66.
Okay. And where do you live?
Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, we got another Virginia man. Okay. We have a few Virginians on and around this call. And you were diagnosed in 22 or 21?
22.
And what was your PSA level and your Gleason score?
My PSA when I was diagnosed was in the mid threes. My Gleason, I've got a little bit of 4+4 in one of the cores, so I'm high risk, although the rest of my cores were 4+3.
Okay. And where were you treated?
I was just treated at Mayo Clinic up in Rochester. January in Rochester, Minnesota. What could go wrong?
Right.
And, yeah. Those of you that have been there know the flocks of crows, the worst thing ever. It's not the cold, it's the crows.
Okay. And what was your treatment?
I had proton SBRT.
Okay. And who was your radiation oncologist?
Ryan Phillips.
Right. And I'm assuming that you're now, are you done?
Well, shortly. I've actually been on Orgovyx since October, middle of October.
Right.
So I'm almost 4 months in. The standard of care is 18 months. I don't want to do 18 months. So I have a Decipher test in process right now, and we're going to see if we can cut that back to 6 months. So hopefully I'm just a couple months away from treatment.
Okay. We'll talk about that. The standard of care is minimum 18 months, minimum.
Yeah, the good news is I'm at the low end of high, so I think there's a little more flexibility.
When you say the low end of high, you're talking about on a genomic test?
Well, Decipher will tell me that. No, I'm
Okay,
saying
but what,
with my risk assessment, and there's several that we've used. With my risk assessment, I'm a little bit lower than what a traditional 4+4 would be. It's
well,
localized, and I've had a PSMA PET. It didn't find
yeah,
anything. The only thing that lit up was the
right.
lesion in my prostate.
The problem is that a 4+4 is a 4+4. And they can't really see where it goes. Where was that 4+4? What part of the prostate was it in?
Well, let's see. It was in the lesion area. Let me answer your question the long way. So I had a random biopsy as well as a targeted biopsy. I did insist on having an MRI before the biopsy, so we actually had a target to shoot for. So I had 5 cores from my target area, and 4 of those 5 were 4+3.
Where was the target area? Was it in the base? Was it in the apex? Was
The
it?
base and mid.
It was in the base.
And mid, yes.
Right. So the fact that it was in the base immediately puts your risk up. Did anybody ever talk to you about that part?
No, and I've never read anything about that.
Okay, well, it does. And the reason it does is because the prostate's upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So the base is the top of the prostate. And that's where it joins the bladder.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have all of your lesions in the apex, you're much better off than having your lesions in the base, because the base is much closer to the bladder neck. That's the reason why having lesions in the base makes you more risky rather than less risky. Now, there are other sort of geographical prostate issues, like how close you are to the edge of the prostate and things like that. But the thing that they rarely don't explain, and I always try to ask, is, was your lesion in the base or was it in the apex? So that's it's a key point, and I'll let you. We'll finish up. I just realized, and I'm going to ask you this question now because I forgot to ask Herb. So I'm going to ask Herb, Courtney, and you at the same time. Did you, first of all, Eric, did you do any genomic testing, any germline, any inherited testing or somatic testing other than the Decipher that you're considering right now?
The only other test I had is one through Joanne Wiedus at UCLA, and I forget the name of it. Let me look here. ProStox, and it's brand new, but it tests for biomarkers associated with grade 2 or higher GU toxicity. And so I scored low on that, but that's longer term. Those are long-term side effects.
Do you have any cancer in your family?
Prostate cancer.
You have prostate cancer in the family. And how widespread?
2 uncles and 2 cousins.
Okay. Have you had any, you haven't had any testing for inherited mutations?
No. Again, other than whatever I'll find out from.
Okay, well, I mean, that's something that Mayo should have done, or your local people. And so we strongly recommend that you do a germline test. It may show nothing, but it may show something. In deference to Myriad, they do offer a germline test, but we recommend the PROMISE test because it's part of a trial and because it's free. So in the interests of the patient, we like the PROMISE trial, but you can talk to your doc about getting a commercial trial. Some of the commercial panels are a little larger than the PROMISE, but I will put in the chat window for you the link to the PROMISE trial, unless somebody else has our link. Hold on a minute. Prostate cancer, nomograms. And my mods, would you please bookmark this so that you can put it in future if I can't get to it quickly enough? This would be helpful. Predict, promise. Here we go.
So
the reason why I'm giving you this particular link is because it ties back to us. We don't get anything for it. There's no interest, but it just allows the promise people to know that this was sourced through AnCan, and it's right there. I just put it in. If you click on that,
Yep.
It's a spit test. They'll send you a package. And it's a spit test, and then you can talk to your doc about additional tests if they want to do a commercial test on top of that. That's it's fine.
Rick, can I make a point or?
Sure.
So Herb, did you happen to see our presentation by Peter Schultz, our webinar?
Mark Schultz.
Mark Schultz.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Okay,
I
so
don't.
a week ago we had a wonderful webinar by Mark Schultz, and it will. I don't know if it's on our website yet, Rick, but it will be.
No, it's not.
Not yet, but it will be. And he made some very pointed comments about Decipher.
Okay, Herb, before we get to Decipher, I'll come back to you, but we're not
Okay.
there yet for Decipher. Okay.
Well,
Herb Courtney, have you done any testing?
Yeah, I had a genetic test, see if I had an inherited genetic defect that would be probably passed on, and I did not.
Okay.
Well, let me just ask one question there then. So the purpose of getting
Eric, hold on. I'll come back to you. I definitely will come back to you. Because I forgot to ask Herb this question. So let me just finish up with Herb, and then we'll come back to you. We've got more to talk about. Herb.
Yeah.
You want to talk to Rettig, especially with a PSA level of around 7, whether you are a candidate for a liquid biopsy, where they might be able to determine what's going on with you from looking at your somatic mutations. And even though they cannot see that, the problem is you're now down to, you'd need to hustle to get it done, because because the tumor burden goes down as your PSA goes down. But it's really something that, a good doc should have been thinking about before they put you on the hormone therapy, to see if you had any mutations that you were making. So when you go to, before you take another shot, and you only did a 30-day shot, before you take another shot, it's something you should discuss with your doc.
Okay.
Okay. Eric, we're back with you. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, so the purpose of getting this test is what?
The purpose of getting the mutation test?
The one that you've suggested.
It's to make sure that you don't carry an inherited gene that you might be passing on to your offspring. I suppose I should have said to you, do you have any offspring?
Yeah, I have 4 boys, 4 sons.
Okay. So you want to make sure you're not passing anything on to them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it may give you an indicator for certain precision treatments if your disease recurs. And whilst it's not needed right now, because you've just finished your PSA, and has the Orgovyx driven your PSA down or not?
Yes.
So it's a very difficult situation because I went through this myself, in that you don't really know how successful the treatment has been until you come off of the hormone therapy. And whilst on the one hand, nobody wants to be on hormone therapy that long, our anecdotal experience, and some of the guys will speak up here, is that when you come off too early, the disease comes back. And you don't want that to happen. Now, I was diagnosed at age 56 and I chose to do 28 months of hormone therapy, and I was a stage 3, and thank the Almighty, my disease has never come back. But I have friends from that era who couldn't tolerate the hormone therapy. They came off after 6 or 8 months. They were 4+3. They weren't even 4+4. And they've since done chemotherapy. I'm not saying that's what happens, but I am saying that most of us in this group would suggest that if you're a 4+4, you stick it out for the 18 months, suck it up. We can help you do that. We've got all kinds of tricks of the trade to help you, and get through at least 18 months, if not longer. You want to do a decipher test? Herb, we don't endorse this message, but Herb, if you want to mention what Dr. Schultz said, please do.
He said he would not do a decipher test. At least my recollection of what he said strongly was,
That's what he said.
This is going to convince you you're going to die, and you're not. He basically said this is a virtually useless test.
Yeah, I was actually on the webinar last week, so I heard him say that. And I had that discussion with my doctor. The one thing that I'd say, just in response to the previous comments, is I think there's a fairly recent YouTube video from Dr. Schultz where he talks about 4+4. And listening to that, and I'm going to go back and review it, I think he has a much softer approach than what you just explained. And so I will talk to my doctor. I'm sending an email to him right now, and I'll discuss all of these. I'm pretty adamant about not doing 18 months, and I've got other reasons for that. But I appreciate the input here, and I think having some more information along that line would certainly help. Some more information about the potential impacts. So I appreciate it, and your recommendation is noted, and I will talk about it with Dr. Phillips.
Okay. The two things I would suggest you do, one is to look at Alan Idell's prostate cancer blog. Anybody, Ben, what's it called? Prostate Sources and Resources or something?
News and reviews.
News and reviews. News and reviews. And look at the studies that he's done with regard to adjuvant hormone therapy with radiation, because there are a number of studies. I can't find them right off the bat. I'd also ask, is there anyone else in here who has done adjuvant radiation with 4+4, and what have you done, and what's your situation? Or does anybody have any comment on that?
Maybe a related question just to help me orient myself with this group. How many of the folks on tonight's call have actually had radiation as opposed to prostatectomy, to surgery? What's the mix?
For initial treatment? Now you've got a lot of you've got a lot of icons that don't
Radiation.
have cameras.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's great to hear.
But there's quite a few of the gents in here who have done radiation plus hormone therapy. And none of you have any comment on how long you've done your radiation, your hormone therapy?
I did mine probably about 18 months. And the thing that some oncologists would say puts you at higher risk, Eric, is that if I heard you correctly, your PSA was fairly low, right? You said it was in the 3s?
Yes.
Yeah, that's typically seen as potentially more aggressive. With a Gleason 8 or higher that's producing little PSA doesn't usually bode well.
Well, the PSA is also a function of prostate size. And I have a relatively small prostate, so that drives some of the differential. I appreciate the fact that that's an added risk factor, but that is something that I try to keep into consideration as well. But I will ask my doctor about that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and ask him about the correlation between smaller prostates and more aggressive disease.
Is there one?
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rich.
Rich Jackson.
Hey, Rich.
I have a Gleason of 9, was diagnosed in 17, did high-dose brachytherapy and IMRT, and about 13 months of ADT. Chemically, biologically recurrent. My prostate bed is clear. There's absolutely no sign of cancer in the prostate bed.
Wonderful.
Bullshit. All of mine are in the lymph nodes. They're away from the prostate, which means the radiation never touched them and can never touch them. So the only possibility is that at the time, they were in the bloodstream running around looking for a condo to rent. And the only thing that's going to do anything about that is the ADT.
Rich,
however, do as you wish.
Well, no, I appreciate that, Rich. So a question for you. Did you have a PSMA PET as part of your process?
I've had about 6 PSMA PETs. I was in the clinical trial that actually helped to prove it.
Wonderful. Did they identify? I'm sorry, Rich, did they identify the lesions or the other hot spots that you had?
I've got periortic, I've got lymph nodes involved in the cervical area. I now have a spot on the left rib. I have lymph nodes involved in the lower left hip area, outside the prostate area. I've got about 5 or 6 different spots. They did a biopsy on the one in the periortic area, verified that it was prostate cancer. But every time that I have had a scan, and in the past year, well, in 22, in preparation for the Pluvicto trial that I'm on, I had a gallium-68 scan, a fluorine-18 scan. I had about 5 scans, including 2 CTs and 2 bone scans. The prostate and prostate bed are negative on all of them. There is no prostate cancer there. So the radiation did what it was supposed to.
Right. I have a question, Rich, that I knew it wasn't going to be all quiet on the Eastern Front. By the way, Rich is a neighbor of yours, Eric. Well, kind of a neighbor. He's within spitting distance. Eric, when they radiated, what did they radiate? What was the field that they radiated with this proton beam at Mayo?
Well, it excluded the lymph nodes, if that's what you're asking. I don't know that I can answer you more specific than that other
Okay.
than.
Well, again, I mean, I think that most of us here, and I know I was one, would strongly recommend that when you've got a 4+4 and you're getting radiation, that it includes the pelvic girdle, unless there's very good reason for it not to. Even the pattern of rabbit ears is not as good as the whole pelvic girdle. And whilst we don't give medical advice, I can tell you certainly, if it were me, that's what I would be doing. In fact, that's what I did. And our anecdotal experience has been the people that do get pelvic girdle radiation up front are the ones that are less likely to be dealing with recurrence. So if you're 4+4 and they didn't radiate the pelvic girdle, I would be asking my radonc to justify why he didn't radiate the pelvic girdle. Anybody want to comment on that one?
Well, I want to comment in a more general way, Rick, which is, Eric, I don't understand why you want to minimize your treatment.
Well, there's several.
It seems to me that the opposite would have a higher probability of success.
Yeah.
If you minimize your treatment, you minimize the probability of success. That's all.
Well, so to me, it's an
I don't know why you want to roll the dice.
To me, it's an optimization question. If you let me finish, please. It's an optimization issue. We're recording this. I'm not going to go into private matters here. But for me, I have a very strong preference for it. And I appreciate everybody's input here. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm here because I want to hear different perspectives. But please, if it's a personal issue, don't ask me to explain it.
No, it's not a personal issue. It's just saying
it's a personal issue for me. It's a personal issue for me.
Let me summarize by saying this. It pains a lot of us who have been in this game for a while when we meet folks who, for whatever reason they have, don't do what they need to do up front, and then we see them back in 2 years or a year or 6 months, and they're saying to us, we've got recurrence. And we say, well, did they radiate the pelvic girdle? And they say, no. Well, did you do more than 12 months ADT? No. And it doesn't mean to say the disease won't come back. But you're talking to people like Herb Geller and a lot of other people on here who never had the luxury you have. They were diagnosed de novo metastatic. They never had the luxury to choose what type of treatment. They were thrown in at the deep end. And so what we want to do is let you know that if you take the right steps now, which is what I did in 2007, where I did brachyseeds, IMRT to my whole pelvic girdle, and 28 months of ADT, and it was tough. It was very tough, especially since I was 10 years younger than you when I did it. But my disease never came back. I don't say I'm cured, but I have a durable remission. And I am so grateful to the Almighty and everybody else, to the people that guided me at the time. I had some great mentors, and I am so relieved, because if the disease comes back, and especially today, this wasn't true 15 years ago, but if your disease comes back today, you're looking at hormone therapy, first-line hormone therapy, second-line hormone therapy, and depending where it shows up, you could be looking at chemo up front as well. And if you've got the chance to beat that right now, you have to think about that very carefully, notwithstanding other issues, whatever they be, whether they be incontinence, whether they be ED, whatever they are, we can help work around those issues. We've got people in this group tonight that have artificial sphincters. We got people in this group tonight who are using Trimix, and they're all living good lives. But one thing we can't do once that disease becomes metastatic is we can't guarantee how long we can keep you around, and your disease is not metastatic right now. So that's the pitch we're going to do. We respect where you're at, and you'll come back and you'll ask us again. But there's a bunch of questions. If it were me, I'd be asking that RO. Why am I only, we're talking 18 months, but you're willing to leave me 6 months. You didn't radiate my pelvic girdle. How come you didn't radiate my pelvic girdle? And a bunch of others.
I've got questions. I've got a picture here. I can show you my scan, but it's not in color. So there are excellent questions that you've raised that I will go back in my email tonight and ask Dr. Phillips. And I appreciate everybody's perspective. It's my first time here, so I'm still getting used to the group, but I value the reason why I'm here after watching the webinar last week is because there is a wealth of experience on this call. It's not like my local group where there are only a handful of us that have actually done radiation. They're at a very different point. You're the experts. You're here, and I hope we can push back and have some give and take on this. But I'm here for the reason that you're all exceptionally experienced, and much more so than I am. So I appreciate it. There are at least 5 questions I've got, and I will have answers to those by the next time we meet.
Okay. And do we have are you signed up for a reminder? Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. For the last time, and we're going to run through you very quickly. Can we hear you, Don Eisner?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what happened. And it's dark in here because I haven't fixed my, we're getting a new chandelier, so it's a little darker.
Well, we can. So, Mr. Eisner, I'm going to whistle through you, and because we really should be talking to the other folks right now, but we're going to go really quickly. How old are you?
79.
79. And where do you live?
Encino, California, mostly.
Oh, yeah, we know where that is. We know it well. And what year were you first diagnosed?
About 2011 or so.
Okay. And your Gleason score in PSA?
It's 4.3. Well, as of today, it's about 33. But back then it was 26. And by the time I saw the urologist, it was 120.
Okay. 26 rising to 120. And what was your Gleason?
7. 4 plus 3.
7. 4 plus 3. And where did you initially seek treatment?
Initially, Cedars-Sinai.
Okay. And what did you do?
I decided to get radiation.
Okay.
Which may have been a big mistake, but that's a long story. And then I had about 8 or 10 different hormone treatments and so on, including the jab in the stomach that didn't hurt, but immediately, but about a week later, you get it gets a little painful, the Garlix. So I've had all that. Every single.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We'll get there. So did they do with all these, with this 120 PSA? Did they do any scans before they started in 2011? And did they find anything?
Yeah, they did a scan. And it went to the lymph node, and then I had a decision: do I want to have an extreme or a more extreme surgery? Cedars-Sinai wouldn't do it. City of Hope would do it, a big surgery when you go more than the prostate. And I said, no, I'll just do the radiation. So that's what happened back in 2011-12.
And you did IMRT, and did they radiate the pelvic girdle and the lymph nodes?
They did. I was about 99% cured. My colon wasn't cured, but
yeah,
it goes down to about 1.5. And then you get on these hormone treatments, and it's great for a year or two. Every single one, there's like a it goes down after 12 to 18 months, every single one, you name it. Xtandi, Zytiga. After 12, 18 months, it goes back to 10 to 20 to 30.
Right. So, so you've been wrestling with recurrent prostate cancer since 2000 and whatever it is, 12, 13.
11, 12,
You,
yeah.
and you've been through all of the hormone therapies. What treatment are you on right now?
At the moment, I'm on Pluvicto. I was on
Okay.
chemo, but it wasn't doing anything for me.
Okay.
And
So
so
I
I
was
got
going
that.
to ask you if you've done chemo, and where does the cancer, how much cancer is seen right now?
It seems to be all over my back and spine and everywhere.
Okay, so it's fairly extensive. And
Yeah.
who's your doc now?
Well, for the last 3 years, Mark Scholes.
Okay. All right. So you have friends on this call who are also seeing shows. You have friends on this call who have also done Pluvicto. You even have friends on this call who have done Pluvicto guided by Dr. Scholes, except they may not live on your coast, but they have done it.
Okay.
So how much Pluvicto have you done so far?
Well, I'm halfway through. A couple of days ago, I got the fourth one.
Okay.
It
And
seems like
what's
that?
What was your PSA when you started Pluvicto, and what's your PSA today?
I think it was about 53, then went down to 33.6. So I'm at the halfway point. It's sort of working, would be my observation. Sort of
So,
working.
sorry, what did you say it is today? 3.6?
33.6.
Oh, 33.6. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, it's
33.
sort of working. And since you see Dr. Schultz, I'm sure you've done all kinds of genomic and genetic testing. Is that
Done
true?
it all. Yes, and nothing showed up.
And nothing showed up. Okay, we don't need to pursue that line of question. All right. What I'm going to do in the interest of time is ask some of the other Pluvicto guys to talk to you a little bit about their experience, how many after what they've done. Start with Herb, and then we'll go on to Al Latimer. Herb.
Is that me?
That's you. Yes, Professor.
Repeat the question again, Rick.
Oh, okay. So Don Eisner is halfway through. He's about the same age as you, a tad older. He's
Right.
halfway
Okay. I just
through.
finished. Got it. I've just finished 6 cycles of Pluvicto. So I got it sort of just as it was approved. And the people who are giving me Pluvicto say it takes time. You say you're sort of halfway through and it's sort of working. You may find out that it's more than sort of working
Oh,
as you
okay.
go through your rest of your cycle. So my PSA wasn't as high as yours, but I just finished mine, and now it's down to 1.1, which is as low
Where'd
as
you
it's
do it?
been.
Oh, where was
Johns
yours?
Hopkins.
Oh,
It was about 8 when I started, but it dropped, and now, I mean, I don't know how long. Obviously, we don't know durability, but the side effects were relatively minor of Pluvicto, and I certainly think it's the right thing to do. You're on the right track.
it's only one
Did you have any
issue.
questions about it?
Well, it's not a question. It's a fear and an issue that what do you do when you're done with the 6? I don't want to go back on chemo. It was much more unpleasant.
Well, but
Pluvicto,
I mean,
I
I
was going to
think
say,
that's one of those things. When we have one of our favorite GO med oncs is Dr. Eleni Estethiou. And if you talk to Eleni, she will say, I mean, we have people come in here, for example, and say, well, I've talked to my doc, and they say, here's the sequence of things we're going to do for you. We're going to do chemo, then we're going to do Xtandi, then we're going to do Zytiga, and then we're going to do this and that. And then if you really listen to to Eleni and my own doc, they will tell you when the time comes, we'll deal with it because who knows what's going to be available. And you said you've been through a year and a half of this and a year and a half of that. You've got a lot of those year and a halves piled up, Don. Right?
Let,
So
let,
those are
let's
blessings.
let Herb, let's hear from Al, who's got a slightly different story.
Sure.
Give
Okay,
us
is
the short
my
version.
mic on?
Short version, Al.
Okay, I finished Pluvicto just about a year ago now, and my so I live in Florida. My doc is Dr. Scholes in LA, your same doc. He got me into Pluvicto before it was approved at UCLA. I've done my 6 treatments. My PSA started at 65, similar to what yours did. After three treatments, it was a 3, and by the time I was done, it was like Herb's. It was down to 1.2 or 1.3 or something like that. So I had a great response from it. I find from talking to different people that have done this or are doing it that everybody's situation is slightly different. But so I had a great response from it, but 2 months later, my PSA started rising again. And 6 months later, it was right back to 65. So I did not have any durability from it whatsoever. And I'm now doing chemo. And my PSA has dropped again from 65. I've had three treatments now, and it's down under 20. And we'll see. I get another treatment tomorrow. We'll see where my PSA is now.
But
I'm not having
Al,
a lot of trouble with.
Al, we should
Yes,
point out that you did not do chemo first. You were one of the
I
very
did.
unusual people who didn't do
Okay.
chemo.
Well,
Go ahead,
that's
Don.
true. I did not have chemo before. So I had some side effects from the Pluvicto. By the time I was done, I had severe dry mouth, but I have recovered from that. So I guess that's kind of my story in a nutshell
So,
on the Pluvicto.
I think that um, that you have to stay in the moment. That's the best advice I think we could all give you here, which is don't be worried about what are you going to do next. Finish what you're doing right now. And there's so much going on in this field in terms of new technologies, new treatments, that by the time you're ready for the next treatment, there's going to be something out there. And you don't want to do the Pluvicto again, but if you tolerate it well, it might not be a bad option. And by the time you're ready for it, it might be another option. But let's see if we can get a really good response. How many chemotherapies were you able to tolerate, Don?
Oh, it's been a couple of years. I tried the Taxotere. It didn't work. I went bald. And then I went on to Jeftana, and then my hair grew back like it used to be, which is kind of weird. So I've been on chemo a couple of years, and it's mildly unpleasant, a little more unpleasant than Pluvicto. Pluvicto, I wouldn't even notice if I had side effects. I mean, maybe a little dry mouth or something, but chemo, unfortunately, there's some cardiopulmonary side effects that I have. Because I have cardio problems too to begin with. But there's about 4 or 5 other things that are coming down the pike, so I'm not too worried about it just yet.
Well, what I would say is keep coming back here. We got to move on as it is. We can't get to everybody tonight, all the new guys. But please come back. We'll share our advice with you. I mean, these guys have all got the T-shirt, as like Eric said. You come here, and many of these guys have the T-shirt. So that's why we're here, and we want to give you the benefit of what it cost us to earn that T-shirt. So let's let's keep talking to you, and you'll tell us how you do in the next 3 sessions. Anybody? I see Jim Marshall has his hand up. Is it quick, Jim? Because we got to get to the guys who want to talk.
Negative.
Negative. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rick, one thing I want to reiterate something you just said. When you're on Pluvicto and your PSA is going down, it's a good time in your life because things are better. You're feeling better, mentally, and that's important too. So I reiterate what you said about that. It's
Thank you.
That was a good year when the PSA was
Okay.
going down.
So, Terrell, my apologies. We just have to get to the guys that need time tonight, but we will definitely put you in as number 1 next week. Are you? I saw you for a second, and now you just shut off. Are you still? Oh, there you are. Yes, I got you. I got you. So, will you come back next week, and Peter Kaplan will put you as number 1?
Yeah, aren't the meetings every other week?
This meeting is the advanced meeting. It's every week.
Oh, okay. And it's at 5 o'clock every Monday at the same go-to meeting address?
You think that would be the easy way, wouldn't you? You think that's what we would do, but we don't make it easy. Our meetings on the meetings are the first and third Mondays at 8 o'clock Eastern,
Well, have another
and
one.
the second and fourth Tuesdays at 6 o'clock Eastern.
At that go-to meeting,
Always in the same room.
Okay. So what was the third and fourth?
The first and third Mondays and the second and fourth Tuesdays. And if you haven't signed up, either put your email in the chat window and we'll sign you up, or go to AnCan.org and sign yourself up for a reminder. You'll get a reminder before every meeting.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And I'm sorry, our apologies to you for tonight, but we will make it up to you next weekend. I'm just putting yes.
But these are an hour and a half meetings? I thought they were 2 hours.
2 hours.
Okay.
2 hours. But we have to leave time for the people who have questions. That's why we ask everybody up front who would like time. And this meeting's going to go on at least a half hour over, is my guess. We will stay for as long as it takes. All right. I'm going to start going down my list. And I'm going to start with Joe Merger. Joe, what's on your mind? You turned your mic on, but we can't hear you. Are you there? We can't hear you, Joe. I'll come back to you. Okay, Aaron, what's on your mind?
I think he left, Rick.
Aaron left. Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Peter Goodell, we haven't seen you for a while. Bring us up to date.
I will, really quickly. When I left you last, my PSA, I was on Eligard for 6-8 months. My PSA started to rise. I was in a quandary as to what to do. My oncologist said he would like to, I should add Xtandi. And on the advice of this group, I got a second opinion with Dr. Anarakis at the U of M, University of Minnesota, which you also recommended. And he basically gave me the same exact advice: Eligard, add Xtandi, see how far it takes me. But he put me on a clinical trial, an AFT 47. So it was either I was either going to get Xtandi or darolutamide. And I ended up getting put on the Xtandi arm. So I've been on that for 6 months. No, about 4 months. And pretty much cruising. I've had very little side effects with Xtandi. Hardly any fatigue, if any. So the upshot is I did switch doctors from Minnesota Oncology to Dr. Anarakis. I see him now. So I'm kind of in the middle of where everybody is. I'm still in that hormone treatment phase, and it seems to be working at the moment. My last PSA was a little disconcerting because it was down to like 1.3, and then it was like to 1.4, so I really don't know if that makes a difference. So I have an appointment with him in a week and a half to see if my PSA is going up, down, or is it steady? Is it still working? So everything's kind of always in a state of flux, you know what I'm saying? But so far, everything seems to be working. I have hardly any side effects, which is good.
I mean,
That's
that's
kind of my
really
update.
good. Yeah, I mean, that's really good on enzalutamide because so many people really feel the fatigue off of enzalutamide. So delighted. Are you exercising?
Every day. I
Good
belong to
man.
Lifetime. I belong to Lifetime Fitness, and there are a few days where I get up, have breakfast, and the first thing I want to do is go back to sleep. But
Yeah.
instead, I get in the damn car, and I do live in Minnesota, so it's like 0 degrees, and I drive to Lifetime Fitness and I do something.
Good for you.
So I
By the
think
way, that's a wonderful trial. By the way, I mean it's randomized to either darolutamide or enzalutamide, so there's
Yep.
no loser there.
Nope. I mean, I still, for me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference because if I got on darolutamide, it would be free. And so since I'm on Xtandi, it's not. I still pay. So it would have cost me, and believe it or not, cost is a huge factor in a lot of this stuff. So now it only costs me $6,000 a year to be on Xtandi. But through the U of M, they have financial advocates that contact the company that pay your copay for Xtandi for the year. So they'll actually pay that for the year.
Right.
So in effect, I get it for free.
Right.
Kind
Right.
of.
I was going to ask you about whether, because there are programs we would have directed you, but it's great that Masonic is already on top of that. And how are you liking Dr. Antonarakis?
He's a fantastic guy. So really quick side note. Last October, went on a huge, fantastic vacation. 2 days later, I had a heart attack. They put me on this heart attack cocktail of pills. One was Crestor. I got a blood test. Now, Anarakis takes blood tests every time you go, and he takes a full panel. And I was just about to leave the office, and he's looking at the computer and going, wait, sit down. There's a problem. Turns out Crestor was damaging my liver. And he said, stop taking Crestor right now. Just stop it. And talk to your cardiologist when you get home. So he actually picked up on a problem that wasn't cancer related, but it was my heart attack related pills.
Right.
So I gave him kudos for that. He's a really good guy.
Great. Anybody have anything they'd like to share or ask Peter before we move on?
Yeah, Peter, this is Len. I'm curious who is sponsoring that trial. It's very rare that pharma companies will go head to head with competing products like that. It's usually an academic trial. Is that the case here?
No. Who puts out darolutamide? Bayer
There.
or Bayer?
Yeah.
Bayer's doing the trial. That's why
Okay.
they give darolutamide away for free, but they don't give away Xtandi for free. So if I
Oh,
got
okay.
the darolutamide arm,
Right.
I'd get all the pills I want. Even if I got off the trial, they'd continue the
Right.
pills for
Okay.
me.
So they're not going to be happy that you're doing well on Xtandi.
No, they are not. But I'll tell you, I exercise is like huge, huge, huge.
Yeah. Are they? I'm curious. Are they testing your mental acuity in this?
That's that's the
Is it?
Oh,
purpose of the trial.
yep. Every 12 weeks, they give me a cognitive test.
Right. That's what I figured. Yeah.
Part of it is computer based. So like a week before I see them, I run, and the computer based thing is like an hour to an hour and 20 minutes of cognitive tests. Then you go and you sit down, and Emily gives you like 10 pieces of paper you got to fill out on how you think you're doing and how you think. Then they call my wife and ask her, since she agreed to kind of be part of it. So it's
Okay.
kind of
All
drill you.
right. Well, look, we come back. Don't wait so long. Come back and
I
tell us
won't.
how you. And we're delighted you're doing well. We've just got to keep moving this along. I'm
Keep going.
hoping. Thank you. I'm hoping Joe Merger. Try your microphone again, Mr. M. You show it. There you go. Speak up. Can't hear you. Go out and come back in again. It sometimes works. Leave and come back, and I'll try you again. And in the meantime, let's go to Frank Fabish. Frank, just give us a very, very short rundown of your Myovant experience, please.
Sure. A quick summary. Myovant had their annual meeting in Orlando last week. My wife and I participated in it. I as a patient ambassador, she as a caregiver ambassador. We presented our stories, very positive. It was very good to talk to them about my experience with Orgovyx, and we were very pleased with the meeting and the people that we met, and the just the friendship of all that were there. One last point. I have my next 3-month checkup with my doc and blood work on the 23rd of this month, and I'll be able to give an update after that.
Right. And I think you should tell all the guys that you made sure they were aware of that proton pump inhibitor cross, what would you call it?
Yes.
Cross and contamination, cross impact?
Yes, I passed on the emails that were presented to me, and they took those and immediately started the process of the reports with the PPI and the Orgovyx, and they'll be getting back to our three guys with questions, and we're very attentive to that problem.
Thank you, thank you. So just for those of you who haven't heard this before, we had a number of guys who did not do well on Orgovyx, but it turned out they were all taking proton pump inhibitors for other conditions. And so somebody was smart enough to check it out. I think it was Dr. John. And we came up with an indication that there's a contraindication between Orgovyx and proton pump inhibitors. And we hope that they will make that well known to everybody who prescribes Orgovyx, because it affected Peter Kafka, Dr. John, and a couple of other people as well. I can't remember, but well, thank you. And on the subject of Dr. John, you should all know that he took a bit of a fall last week off of a ladder. He was trying to get into his attic and came off the ladder and concussed himself. Thank goodness there was nothing broken, nothing serious, but they kept him for observation for a while. He's back home. He's very sore. A little embarrassed about falling off a ladder. But I do want to say, because this is the second time we've heard this recently, guys, be careful on ladders, especially if you're on hormone therapy and your balance is a little off. Please be careful. If you want to drop Dr. John a note to wish him well, I am certain he would be very appreciative. I'm just going to put it's Dr. John at AnCan.org. Dr. John, there's a period after the DR. I just put it in the chat window, and he's still got a bit of a headache, but my guess is he'll be back with us next week. So just to
It's the second time he fell off the same ladder, Rick. Do you know that?
Right,
Oh, is that right?
time.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think that's why.
Rick, I'm gonna go one beyond you. I'm gonna say, don't be careful on ladders. I'm gonna tell all of our peer group, stay off ladders. At our age, we don't belong on ladders.
I asked him if it was a 6-foot ladder. He said it was a 10-foot ladder. I said,
Right,
you really
but-
should feel sheepish now.
I mean,
Wipes
I've
off the
ended
same
up,
10-foot ladder.
Jimmy, I ended up in Suburban after falling off a ladder. So I know we don't want to be on ladders.
Okay. This could be the highlight of the meeting. This could be edited pick for this week. Stay off ladders. Okay. In honor of Dr. John. All right. I'm moving along here. We're going through. Dr. Jack, you're up.
Yes, for a very brief overview. As you know, I told you that I was going to see an interventional pulmonologist, and I did see him, and he looked at my scans. I'm not sure he looked at them all, but he concluded on the exome scan that he clearly pointed out to me that there is avidity, and the subcarinal lymph node is very clear. He measured it out at 6.7 millimeters, and he said to me he believes he'll have no difficulty getting to it with this fancy device he has. And he scheduled me for this Thursday to get a 7:30 in the morning. He said I'll be out by 10 at the latest. He just put a little lidocaine on my throat, puts the endoscope down. He looks at it, you can see it on the screen, and he goes in and gets a biopsy, aspirational for cytology, and then he said he can get a section too to study it if I want to study the tissue for mutations. I was kind of surprised. I didn't think they can do that. I said, hopefully no fistulas, no infections. He said, no, don't worry about that. Well, who knows? But I'm going to take the chance. I want to find out. He didn't look at the PSMA scan. Sloan Kettering thought the PSMA scan, according to their reader, saw some questionable, or maybe not so questionable, avidity in the right hilar area, and not just the subcarinal. So the mediastinum may have more than one node. It wouldn't surprise me, since this thing is micrometastatic, if 20 years later it completely avoided showing up anywhere in the pelvic area, anywhere in the prostatic fossa, and it goes right to the lung 20 years later. It's totally shocking to me. I still can't understand how that could have happened, but they say it happens. Everything I read, it's a relatively rare presentation for prostate cancer. And when anybody says in a cavalier fashion, like they said at Sloan Kettering, we see it all the time, It sounds like a joke to me that we used to make in medical school when somebody came up with a rare case and we used to say as a joke, oh, I saw 3 cases this morning. Fact of the matter is, everything I read, it's very atypical to show up for the first time in a lymph node, isolated lymph node in the lung. So I'm hoping that they don't see anything and it turns out to be inflammatory or reactive. But if it turns out to be metastatic, I really don't know what the approach is going to be and whether or not it's going to be just hormones or chemo or the whole thing about whack-a-mole spot radiation. I've gotten pretty friendly with this guy down here, Neil. Do you know Neil Lesher, Rick? Neil Flesher?
Fleshner, yeah.
Fleshner.
Yeah, we know.
He has a
Yeah,
place
from
down here. Toronto. He has a place
yeah.
down here, so he talks to me as a buddy, and he's a pretty smart guy, and he knows Peter and Carol and Scardino, and he said to me,
Did he get a haircut yet? Did he get a haircut yet?
No, he still has pretty long hair.
Okay.
I'll tell him that. But he said to me the whack-a-mole thing usually is not very effective. He said, so I was hoping maybe they can do that, whack-a-mole thing, kick the can down the road and do some SBRT or proton beam, pencil beam radiation on the spots. If it turns out to be metastatic, I need your experience. I have no clue other than what I read and talk to people. Peter Carroll says possibility. I know Quan does that all the time, but who knows what works.
Dr. Jack, I want you to go back and listen to the advice from Dr. E, okay? Listen to the advice from Dr. E, and we'll worry about it when we get the results. She gave you the best advice I've ever heard. So I want you to internalize that advice from E, and then we'll talk about it after the surgery, after the biopsy, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to say to Dr. Jack about this biopsy coming up on Thursday?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that biopsy going to be in a lymph node or other node in the?
Yeah, he said he may snoop around, and if you see Zenny on the ultrasound, if he sees anything suspicious around the right bronchi when he goes in that area, or on the subcarinal area, mediastinal area, he may go in and take a punch at those too. And I was hoping he wouldn't overdo it, but he evidently knows what he's doing, and I have to trust him. And
I'm interested only because I have extensive mets in the lungs, more in the lower, but yeah.
Mine are just the lymph nodes, not in the parenchyma of the lungs. Thank God so far. But it could be present. It's just not showing up. It's just showing up in the lymph node or nodes. One is showing up with axonum, and the other one questionably with PSMA.
Okay, because I'm interested in anybody who has the mets in the lungs themselves.
Well, see if you consult an interventional pulmonologist, and they can see whether they can do that procedure to get a biopsy of anything you need to have biopsied in the lung.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, you can discuss that with your team over there at Innova, Richard. If they think it's worthwhile biopsying anything, but it is a feasible option.
Right now, they don't think it's feasible because of the total number of them, and they're in the lower lobes.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna keep moving along, and I got 2 more guys, so we're doing real well. Cliff, there's 2 of you, man. I'm seeing like double it. I'm seeing double it. I got you.
With you, both of us. So my
Tell us
question
what. Yes.
what are the requirements for Pluvicto or Teixeira?
Okay, so the approval requires that you have done a first-line anti-androgen like Firmagon, Eligard, Orgovyx, Lupron, Trelstar, plus one second-line anti-androgen, and you have had chemotherapy, although it's very unclear how much chemotherapy. Jim Barnes, if he's still with us somewhere. Oh yes, Jim Barnes might be happy to talk to you on how much chemotherapy, because he was one of our people that thought, well, maybe you could just get one session and then that would be enough. But then he kept going. Now his hair's starting to come back, so I don't know what's going on with Jim Barnes, but but that is basically Pluvicto people. Have I missed any other prerequisites?
I think the standard of care says you really only have to have one treatment of
Right.
chemotherapy before you're eligible for Pluvicto. I did six chemotherapy treatments because Pluvicto just wasn't available for a number of months there. So I kept on riding that horse and for as long as I could, and I couldn't take more than 6 treatments.
And you also need a scan to show you're positive for PSMA.
I think you have to have failed treatments in order.
So you need either any of the either gallium-68 or other scans will work.
Okay.
And Don Eisner, what was that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm back on. Is my voice? Oh, I think you have to have essentially failed treatment and or a rising PSA. You just can't say, oh, I'm going to switch from this to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Professor?
Yes.
Okay, Professor number 2, because we've already got at least one other professor. We may have a few more here, but I've got to be careful. I don't throw that term around lightly. So yes, anything else you wanted to know, Cliff, on that one?
No, that was it.
Okay. All right. Neil Sundstrom, my future fishing buddy. Are you with us still? Yes. Hello.
And working now. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have. Let me give you a snapshot of what's been happening. I had a radical prostatectomy 9 years ago. My PSA is rising again, so there's something somewhere. It's 0.015, and then just last month it came down to 0.013. So I'm getting more tests more often. Dr. Carroll has been my quarterback in San Francisco, UCSF, and he is recommending until it hits 0.2 and then get a PSMA scan. My urologist local urologist is go for radiation P in order to mitigate spread of the prostate cancer. That is recommending that I those two things kind of working between one. I can't think what it is to have another.
Hold on a sec. Hold on one sec, Neil.
Just amended just
Hold on a sec, Neil. Are other people having trouble hearing Neil, or is it just me?
Yes.
Yes.
Neil, we're having trouble hearing you. It sounds like a bandwidth problem. So why don't you start over? We got the 0.13, and switch your camera off and see if we can hear you better if you switch your camera off.
Okay. I think that's I hope it's
No,
definitely a band.
no, you're still coming in and out.
Canada, it's a right. Let me be back here. Move back at a so let me play better. Call in there.
No, we're really having trouble hearing you, I'm afraid.
I'll just a little better. And
try.
Close it to his router.
I will call next.
So two things, Neil. Either try calling back in right now.
Call in next weekend.
Or call in on the telephone right now. If we see you pop up on the telephone right now, we'll be able to talk to you. But we can't really hear you. That's the biggest problem right now. So I'm going to keep an eye out for Neil. I think I got through the list. Is there anybody other than Terrell? Is there anybody who wanted to say something today who we haven't gotten to?
This is Joe. Can you hear me now?
Oh, Joe, we can hear you. Yes, Joe, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, two new things. I have a new oncologist. My first one retired, and I'm on a new medication, Orgovyx. And I just want, so far so good. It's been 3-4 days. And I'm kind of waiting for the hot flashes to start.
Okay. And you're not taking a proton pump inhibitor, are you?
No, I'm not. They didn't say anything about that, but I know I heard it here.
Yeah. Okay. No, they don't say it. They don't say it because they haven't clocked it, and they don't check. And Orgovyx hasn't put the word out to all of its docs, and that's what we're hoping we can get Orgovyx to do, because if you are on a proton pump inhibitor and you're on Orgovyx, it somehow or other the PPI keeps the medicine in your system for longer, and you have a real adverse effect. So we don't love it, and we're trying to bring that to the attention of Myovant. So we're doing our best. Tell us about so you started Orgovyx. Where's your PSA when you started the Orgovyx?
I think it's around 250.
Okay.
250.
Okay, so probably pretty good to start the Orgovyx. Do you have any pain, do you think, from the from the prostate cancer, Joe?
I think I did, but I mean, I was in a lot of pain last week on a, the 1 to 10 scale. I told him I was at an 8, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty much gone now.
Okay.
I don't know whether
That's good.
I never know, it's the pain from the prostate or from something else.
Right. And this new doc, is this is this local? Is this someone who's local to you?
Yes, and he's not a GU oncologist, but
Okay.
he has treated more prostate patients than the previous one.
Well, we're slowly moving you in the right direction. I forget, you live in, is it the Pittsburgh area, Joe?
No, Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse. That's right, Syracuse. Um, okay. So, what questions can we answer for you about your Orgovyx?
Well, I mean, I was on bicalutamide for 4 years, and how much different is the Orgovyx going to be? I'm expecting hot flashes anytime.
Well, it's going to be different. I'll just say one other thing, then I'll throw it open. It's going to be different is one, and the guys will talk to you a little bit about it because it's a stronger drug. And the other thing is that for somebody like you, and it's up to you, the standard of care is more than just Orgovyx. And that's something that hopefully your doctor is aware of and should be discussing with you. So you can make the decision as to how much treatment you want to do.
Yep, that's what I did before.
Okay. So anybody want to talk about bicalutamide versus Relugolix?
Well,
No?
it may just take a few days before you get the hot flashes, Joe. They should be testing your testosterone level, make sure it's properly lowering it. And if it is, unless you're a rarity, you will get hot flashes. Some guys don't, but most do. You may need to wait a few more days. But are you aware of that Ember Wave device to mitigate the hot flashes?
Yes, what's the best way to get one of those?
I don't have one, but I guess from the website. Does anybody have that website handy?
It's Ember Labs, EMBRLABS.com.
Hey, thank you.
And I was on Orgovyx, and I did not have true hot flashes. I had occasional tingling that lasted maybe a minute.
That'd be nice.
Yes, it was very nice.
And what were your T levels, Joe?
I don't believe they've measured. I don't believe they've measured those.
Yeah. Len, you've got to decide. You've got to distinguish which Joe. You've got two Joes you're talking to.
Oh, sorry, Joe Gallo.
Well, quickly, I started at 456 and dropped down to 12.
Okay. And you were on it for how long, or you're still on it?
A year. I was on it for a year, and we've suspended it for now.
And never had a real hot flash, just a brief tingling.
Nope.
Well,
I've got the Ember Wave, and I never really got to use it except to play, which was fine with me.
Yeah, good for you.
You want to make a deal with Joe Merger and sell it on?
Since I don't know if I'm ever going back, I think I'll hold on to it for the moment. They were offering AnCan a $50 break. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, they are. And Joe, I've just put the a link for the Ember Wave, but if you go there, and I think there's a discount code for AnCan. I think it's AnCan 50. I think that it's either AnCan 50 or NCAN 50. So I just put that in the chat window for you.
Okay.
And yes, but I would just hang on until you see how you do. Okay?
Good.
Anybody else have anything? And then we'll try Neil again. Okay, Neil, talk to us. No. 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 I don't know
I'm on
what's
the
wrong.
phone.
Oh, you're on the phone now. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm on the phone now.
Okay, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. So I'm not sure where to start, where we left off, but so very quickly, I had Dr. Carroll had a radical prostatectomy nine years ago. It's coming back, and I've had some PSA, very low, 0.013 is the last one that I got last month. He's recommended that I stay steady until 0.2 and then PSMA scan. My urologist here and his cohort, the radiologists, have expressed that they'd like me to come in right away and get started with a full girdle radiation, which would be 8 weeks, 5 days a week for 15 minutes per session. And when I asked about, waiting for the PSMA, his response was the radiation doctor was, well, if we do, we may be able to pinpoint it more closely, but he would still have a pan pelvic girdle radiation of that magnitude. So a couple of questions is, it's 8 weeks, 5 days a week seems long. And then secondly, and by the way, I'm slowing the whole situation down, so I'm probably going to come closer to the 0.2 before anything happens anyway. I am going to put the radiation in my schedule, but the question is that kind of radiation really 8 weeks and 5 days a week? Is that something that's regular? I'm going to see another radiologist through UCSF. Dr. Carroll has got a request in for me, but it could take a little time to see that one. So that's kind of the questions.
Okay. So the first question I have is, you've said 0.013 and you've also said 0.13.
I'm sorry.
What is it?
0.13.
Okay,
0.13.
Okay, so it's at 0.13. It was at 0.16, but now it's at 0.13.
It did get up to 0.15 and then came down to 0.13.
Okay. if it were me, I would do exactly what Peter Carroll is saying. I wouldn't be too concerned. I would let it rise to a level where we could pinpoint and see where it's coming from. The fact is that, yes, they may cover it with the whole pelvic girdle radiation, but they may not cover a spot well enough. So, as I'm sure Dr. Carroll has explained, the likelihood of it getting out of hand when you're watching it so closely and waiting for it to go to 0.2 or even a little higher is not that great. And I'm just worried that these people are really wanting to do a procedure on you without taking your best interest to heart. And I would definitely get a second opinion from a UCSF radiation oncologist. It shouldn't take that long. I don't know who he's going to set you up with, but it shouldn't take that long. And
well, he said, his office said they referred me to them, and I would get a call between 7 and 10 weeks.
Well, have you discussed that with Peter and said you're a little concerned and anxious about 7 to 10 weeks?
I have. That is the next order of business. Yes.
So that
transpired about a week ago, 10 days ago. So, yes.
I would push back on that and see if you can get a quicker appointment. I'm pretty sure you can. You've been with Peter so long. And if not, maybe we can help a little bit, but I'd start with Peter.
Yeah, and I do like UCSF. I think they're they know what they're doing there, and that's so I agree. That's the next step, and I want to get there as soon as I can. I'm not. I'm kind of slow rolling this into probably a much later time frame, but. I guess my original question is 8 weeks, 5 days a week. Is that a standard or is that, I don't even know.
Yeah, that's about right for IMRT to the pelvic girdle. Peter, do you want to?
They do have hypofractionated IMRT, which would be about 25 or 28 sessions. It would be a slightly higher dose with each dose of the radiation. So talk to him about that.
Okay.
Yep, good suggestion, Len.
Okay.
Neil, if you've gone 9 years post-surgery without having to do radiation, I mean, if it was me, I would ride that wave. I mean, you're doing great. I mean, this is a very slow-moving deal you've got going, and I would not push it. I mean, it's, I don't think Peter Carroll's pushing you. I think I would just, wait, talk to the radiation docs, and see what the next thing is, what they have to offer you, and so forth. But I surely wouldn't panic on this one. You're in better shape than 99% of us, and that's great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think what kind of activated the discussion with both Carol and my doctor was that I had 3 rises in a row of PSA, and the last one doubling, basically. Let me go back, and Rick, you were right. It was 0.16, and then came down to 0.13. So, but it did double from 0.08 to 0.16. So it's rising relatively quickly in the last year. But I agree, Peter, and that's why I'm really kind of slow rolling this whole thing to make sure that I get it up to a place where we can at least look and get a better bead on where it is specifically. The other question that I had, and thank you, Peter, I appreciate the comments. The other one, Rick. So I guess we've been talking about the GU oncologist. I guess my question is, when do you think I should be seeing one? When get a recommendation from Dr. Carroll? Obviously, there must be some in UCSF. Is there somebody? Is it a timing issue that I should be seeing someone soon?
I think that if first of all, I just want to thank Len. Len's absolutely right. I was having a bit of a brain fart that it shouldn't be more than 25. He's correct. They should be able to do this salvage radiation in 25 sessions. They do use 40 to 45 sessions, but that is usually when they are radiating the gland as well, which you don't have a gland, so they shouldn't need as many as 40 for both for just to do the pelvic girdle. And you need to make sure that when they radiate you, they are talking across the whole pelvic girdle, and they're not going to come up with some weird pattern, because sometimes they'll do that, and then you find you didn't get what you thought you got. So I don't think you have to worry at UCSF, but you might have to be more drill down a little bit on your local radiation oncologist. So what was the second question you just asked me?
Is there? Should I be thinking of seeing a GU at this point?
So I think that if you're at UCSF, you can slide right into the radiation oncologist, because between Peter and the radiation oncologist, I think you're in good hands. Now, it depends how long they want you to do the hormone therapy for, because it should be accompanied by some amount of hormone therapy. And you were a 3+4 originally, right?
Yes. So
you might get away with a very little bit of hormone therapy, like 4 to 6 months. It's possible. And I would say then just stick with your radiation oncologist and Peter, and then if there's an issue that comes up, then we can recommend you to one of the GU medoncs. There's several good ones at UCSF, and you'll go from there. But I think this level of recurrence with Peter on your team and a UCSF radiation oncologist, I would think that you'd be overcooking it if you added a GU medonc right now. That's my view. Anybody else want to disagree with that or take a different approach?
Well, I kind of agree with Peter Kafka that I didn't know he was a 3+4. That's favorable intermediate. And like Peter said, 9 years without a recurrence, and now it's only 0.13. I don't be in a rush to do anything. At least let it get past 0.2. Make sure there's a continuing progression there before you do anything.
Yeah.
I think
I don't like the pressure these local guys are putting on you, Neil.
Yeah, I'm really trusting Carol to be my quarterback on it for sure, but I'm looking at all aspects of it and trying to understand it from a few perspectives.
Yeah. You might want to talk to Peter. You might want to talk to Peter Carroll about letting the PSA get up around 0.2 or 0.3 and do a PSMA scan before you decide to do radiation, just to be absolutely certain that you're talking everything's local.
Yeah, he's recommended at 0.2 that we would go for a PSMA scan. So that would be, I think, probably the next step that I would take. The other thing that Carol's office offered was to recommend a radiation oncologist at Stanford. I'm not a big fan of Stanford, but it is close, and any Any feedback on Stanford?
If it were me, I'd stick to UCSF. That's my feedback.
Neil, I did 39 days at UCSF, commuting on the BART from Walnut Creek. I knew where every bathroom stop was along the route. And it wasn't, I mean, on one level, it was a pain because I live in Hawaii and, I had to plant myself there for 3 months, but I grew to love San Francisco. So there's a plus in everything. So, but I was a little different than you because I had, the cat was already out of the bag. So I had lymph node stuff. So they needed to radiate, I have a prostate at that point, but they had to radiate other stuff. So I managed to do the 39 days. It wasn't that big.
And they did the PSMA scan to find the lymph nodes?
No, this was long before PSMA scans.
Okay.
This was guesswork.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for the input. Really appreciate it. And it maybe puts our fishing schedule right on schedule, Rick.
Let me tell you that whatever you decide to do will push the fishing schedule into second place. It's not an issue. Don't ever think that it comes in between you and your treatment, please.
No. Thank you.
Can I share some similarity in terms of what I just heard?
Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Dr. Jack.
This is very similar, your story to mine, except there's a difference in years. I was out 15 years when I had my recurrence, and at Sloan Kettering, the criteria is anything below 0.5 is considered undetectable. I was 0.06 in 2017, November, and then I went to 2012, and I thought I doubled, and I panicked. And I knew the only thing available was Quan was doing C11 choline scans, and for some reason he was willing to fly me out there. And I had a C11 choline scan in February of 2018 when I was at 0.12. And he said he was willing to do that because at the time they were interested in people who were low secretive, people who were multimetastatic, as neuroendocrine, whatever. And he said he was willing to look me over. He didn't see anything. Said come back when it's between 0.3, 0.5. We'll repeat the choline scan. I ended up going and having the PSMA scan at Sloan Kettering when it was above 0.2, just like you're waiting to do with Dr. Carroll. And both times, my story is nothing lit up. But I keep thinking about it retrospectively because at Sloan Kettering, they were really pushing me as soon as it became detectable at 0.06, 0.07. Let's go in right now. Let's go ahead and do IMRT. Let's go in and do ADT. We can cure it. We can cure it. I'm looking back now 5 years, and I'm saying to myself, would they have cured it, or would I have just suffered needlessly if this thing ends up in my node, or maybe it never would have ended up in my node, in my lymph node, in my lung, if I did it early? I have no idea. What made the difference, why it ended up in my node, was it initially micrometastatic, and did it end up just floating into my node, and the IMRT and the ADT would have been needless suffering, or would have been prophylactically done effectively and prevented me from ending up with anything in my node? Sort of an academic question. I have no way of doing anything about it other than to obsess over it, but I just wonder your thoughts as I kind of throw it out there.
Yeah, and I think Jack, that's exactly where they are coming from in this, and so that's the question that I've been wrestling with. Exactly that. Is it prophylactic at this point, or what?
I understand totally.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, look, I think I do want to go back finally to Sunny. God bless her. She's hung in the whole 2.5 hours. Good for you. Anything that you would like to comment on, correct us on, add?
Thank you, Rick. Just again allowing me to be on this forum to hear the challenges everyone raised. It's very informational. Again, my name is Sunny Yarish. I lead marketing for Myriad Genetics. So just a couple of comments. I make it short, Rick. One thing I did hear several people talking about germline testing. I understand AnCan is talking about PROMISE study. Just giving you another alternative information. If you do consider commercial testing, and Myriad has a germline testing called MyRisk, which is considered by many medical professionals as the gold standard for germline testing. For high risk patients, it is 100% covered by Medicare, so there's no out-of-pocket cost. Just do want to pass that information. Secondly is, I did hear a few mention the Decipher test. Just give you alternative. Myriad has a test called Polaris. So Polaris test has a multimodal threshold, which does provide some guidance on the hormone therapy decisions. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna put my email address here just as a resource. Thank you, Rick.
Pleasure. Yeah, it's very, very rare that we get to talk about Polaris or Decipher in this group. In fact, I think Eric could be the first that we've ever thought about talking about Polaris or Decipher. Usually that conversation comes up in Peter's group. Yep. And our experts are Peter and Joe. Those guys really know a lot more than I do. And FYI, I will be at GU ASCO if you're going to be there. We have a poster. It's L7. L is in Larry 7. And feel free to stop by and say hello. But I will be there. Herb was going to be there, but a little indisposed. Would that be correct way to say it, Professor Geller?
Well, not so much indisposed as immovable.
Immovable.
I'm not quite so mobile.
Right.
At the moment.
But he's getting.
Sonny, I have a question. You might not be able to answer it, but genetic testing has been going on now for, I don't know, 8 years, I guess. It's gaining traction. And one of the things that is always comes up in your test is that they list genes of unknown significance. And I'm wondering, in those 7 or 8 years now, whether any of those unknown significant genes have become significant. Whether they're suddenly discovered that there's enough guys or enough people come in, seem to have this one that maybe it's really playing a part in certain cancers or something.
So Peter, that's a really good question. So that is, if for germline testing, that is a unique advantage for Myriad MyRisk. So Myriad is the company who really discovered the BRCA gene 1 mutation. So we discovered BRCA gene 1 in 1994. Then we discovered the BRCA gene 2 in 1995. So kind of pioneered this genetic industry field. So Myriad does have a kind of lifetime commitment. So that means if a patient order MyRisk, if at any point the genes later on is reclassified, so Myriad will send out a letter to that patient and to that provider, tell them the change. So that's what we put on our website called Myriad Promise, Myriad Lifelong Commitment. So we totally agree. The genes, the study keep evolve. We learn more and more. So once we learn more, we'll communicate to the patient.
Good. Thank you.
And how many times has that happened in say the last 15 or 20 years?
I don't have the numbers, but quite often actually. So because the letter did send out by our special team in our company. Again, Rick, it's a good question. I can double check on how many, but I don't have a number on top of my head, but I know it happens.
Okay. And Sonny, we did send you a response to your to that article that you sent to us. You probably saw it already, so
Yep.
okay.
Saw it.
All right.
All right.
All right,
Thank you, Rick.
guys. Thank you, and thanks everybody. And next week, Peter will be in the hot seat, we hope. Hopefully it'll be a hot seat from Maui. And
Maybe it'll be
although
air conditioned. Maybe it'll be air
air
conditioned.
conditioned. It was Peter, it was 81 here yesterday.
Not that hot here.
So not
Wow,
today,
happy
but
birthday.
that's what it was yesterday. We loved it. I was rowing my boat, and in 81 it was a pleasure. That was on Saturday, and it was similar yesterday. All right, guys. Good night, everybody, and we'll see
Good job,
you
Rick.
next week.
Thank
Good night,
you.
guys.
Thank you.